But on the Senate floor, Senator John Cornyn discussing the specifics of this bill and what it means in terms of the price tag and government overreach, as he called it. Here's more with the Texas Republican.
If there were any doubts that this liberal spending binge was about to end, President Biden cleared that up last night, too. He talked about his more than $2.6 trillion American jobs plan, which relies on a very generous interpretation of the word infrastructure, or should I say Orwellian. He discussed the $1.8 trillion American Families Plan, which includes everything from universal preschool to free community college to mandatory paid leave policies and tax provisions. You know, you gotta love politicians when they talk about giving away free stuff. The folks back home know better. Somebody has to pay for it. As my friend Senator Tim Scott said in the Republican response last night, these policies would put Washington even more in the middle of Americans' lives, from cradle to college. These three proposals total more than $6 trillion, an amount so large it's hard for any of us to wrap our head around it. And that's on top of the money that was spent last year in a bipartisan effort to defeat COVID-19. The proposals equate to a spending rate of $60 billion a day during the president's first 100 days in office. $6 trillion is 1/4 of our gross domestic product. If you convert our country's World War II spending into today's dollars, the three Biden spending proposals are even more expensive than what it cost us to arm and defeat Imperial Japan and Nazi Germany. But I want to be clear, these aren't wartime expenses. These aren't even necessary expenses in many cases. These proposals have absolutely nothing to do with our current fight against COVID-19.
That from Senator John Cornyn this past week. Rachel Greszler, let me go back to you, though, because as we heard from Hannah Matthews, this is an investment in America's future. Your response to what you heard from Senator Cornyn and from Hannah Matthews.
Yeah, I think it's really important that we do put the cost of this in context, because the reality is the money is coming from somewhere. And what we're talking about is whether Americans would rather keep more of their money and make the decisions that they know to be best for their families, or if they want to pay more to the government and have politicians set up programs and tell them which things they can and can't qualify for. You know, it's not possible to pay for all of this spending that's been proposed by simply taxing the rich. The reality is that we're looking at more like European style tax rates. And in Europe, the average low-income person who's making about $40,000 a year pays $6,000 more in taxes than a similar American. And so the question should be, do we want to have to sacrifice more of our incomes, not just upper-income Americans, but average middle-class Americans, low-income Americans? Do you want to have to give more of your money away and have restrictive programs? This is not options that are out there. These are government-dictated programs that won't be available to everybody. And it's also important that when we talk about what is an investment and what is the future of that we not discount the investments that Americans make in their own families. Somehow, if it's a government program that is educating a 3 or 4-year-old, that's an investment. But if it's a mom or dad that's staying home with their child and not working and not earning wages, that's a loss of wages. And there's no positive measure of investment that's counted there. And so I think we need to be looking at both sides of the equation.
But is there a role for the government in terms of child care or tax credits for low or middle income families?
I think there is some role for lower income families, and we do have subsidies that are out there. We have child care development block grants, and I think
she froze up for just a moment. Let's get to some phone calls. We'll go to James. We lost you for just a moment. Do you want to continue, Rachel Greszler?
Yes, I was just saying, I do think that there's a role for the Americans, lower income families, to have some access to lower subsidies. but that they need to have more options in what's provided for them. And a way that the government could help more is to reduce some of the regulations that are actually limiting those options and driving up the cost of childcare for a lot of families, making it hard to find the more flexible types of situations that would help them more than kind of a universal one-size-fits-all government-run childcare system.
More details of Rachel Greszler's work is available at heritage.org.
Thanks for watching the Heritage Foundation's YouTube channel. With more than 500,000 members, we are the nation's largest conservative research and education institution. We believe the principles and ideas of the American founding are worth conserving and renewing. Please help us further our mission by subscribing to this channel and sharing our videos with your family and friends.